All right, welcome to the Flag Stays Down podcast. Make sure to subscribe, rate, and review on Spotify and Apple or wherever you happen to get your podcasts. We've got a short staff today. You've got myself, Andy. You can follow me at Comiskey North. And I'm joined by Parker at DJ Parkour. Parker, how you doing tonight?
Uh, Not great, man. It was a tough day. Tough day at the office. The Everton match was definitely not a great one for us. But you know what? We're into May. Season's almost done, so there's a light at the end of the tunnel. And I don't know, man. I don't know about you, but I'm kind of ready for this season to be done, so we can have our boy Tuchel make some moves and start to assemble the pawns and the rooks and the bishops and the chess match that is soccer, and have him be a little bit more coordinated in the formations and such. So that's kind of how I feel today. It was a tough day though.
Yeah, agreed. But talking about light at the end of the tunnel, and we're going to talk about this later on the pod. Friday, we got lots of big news in terms of the ownership. It seemed like it was coming fast and furious. So that's a big light at the end of the tunnel, and thank God, because this is just that ownership thing's been dragging on. I know, if we're talking about any other club, it's like takes a year and a half, 2 years, whatever. But just with the sanctions and the just all the BS, yeah, light at the end of the tunnel for a shitty weekend and a shitty couple months.
Dude, the fact that we had no ability to like even make counters or make offers or be like in the running to make offers and things like that. Usually when these things happen behind closed doors, you figure that, there's some counters and some stuff that happens. Right now it sucks because you're just like, oh, well, shit, we can't, we're handcuffed on a lot of these things. So, with the Rudiger one is especially front and center, right? And that one's the toughest one to swallow, just because you know that we can't be in a position to make counter offers and meet demands and such. So yeah, man, the sooner we figure all this stuff out, the better. And it sounds like we're pretty close to being there.
Yeah, and again, we'll get to that a little bit later in the pod in terms of getting nailing down the specifics and kind of discussing what those next steps are. But as always, we gotta do this pod in memoriam of somebody, and we're on what, episode 35 now? Does that sound right?
That does sound right.
All right, so 35. Here's the big names that I was able to come up with. You got the ever prospect Lucas Piazzone. You got the ever professional, ever seemingly 50-year-old Giuliano Belletti. And then you've got the ever FA Cup youth dominator Dominic Solanke. That's it's quite the list. So let's discuss a little bit here. Who are you taking out of those?
Taking Dom. I'm taking Mr. Solanke out of the group, just because I think he's the only one that's really featured for us in a meaningful way. So I'm taking Solanke.
Yeah, but Belletti was big when I first started getting into Chelsea back in the day. He was not my favorite player, but he was he was a Mourinho guy through and through. Solanke, I can't get behind. I think he's a bust, but that kind of ruins my next pick, which is Piazzone, who's been a prospect for more than a decade at this point.
Yeah, always a bridesmaid, never a bride, right?
Right. Is he even in the Lone Army anymore?
I couldn't tell you, man. He's
Yeah.
he's a name that's floated around for the better part of 10 years, and I've never seen him play any meaningful role for Chelsea. So if he is, God bless him. If he ain't, I wish him the best, as a faithful servant to the Lone Army for as long as he had been. But I'm still going down.
All right. Well, let's make this the Born in the Sown Dominic Solanke episode.
Amen.
All right. So on today's pod, first of all, I do want to just break my script here for a moment. If you are watching on Twitch, thank you for joining us. Feel free to pour yourself a drink. I'm drinking a nice Imperial Sour from Surly, courtesy of Parker. Parker, you had something funky too, right?
I do. I've got an Imperial cocktail sour from Falling Knife Brewery up in Minnesota as well. So this is an all Minnesota Brew podcast right now. I kind of like it.
I think that's first. I have to
It
write
is a
that one down.
first. So cheers, my friend. I know we've got two Milwaukee representatives, and the Bucks did win today. So cheers to the Bucks. But we'll be drinking Minnesota beer and cheers into Milwaukee still.
Yeah, so Lennox, we're sorry about you.
Yeah, right. We know our boy Lennox is a big Boston fan, and it causes a bit of a rift when we cross sports like that. But it's all good still, right?
It'll all be over shortly. All right, so on today's pod, we're going to talk about after a rough week. We're going to talk about the blame game. See where we can again point some fingers. I feel like we just did that topic last week, and I think we might have. Then we'll be talking about and this may be one of the things that we point at. 14 errors leading to 14 goals in April. Then we'll be talking about the top four chase, and finally, as mentioned earlier, we'll be talking about Todd Boehly, and potential new Chelsea owner. So, just a quick rundown of the week. Today, Sunday, May 1st, we lose, of course, Charity FC away to Everton. Keeps Everton alive in terms of the Premier League. Drops us closer to the rest of the top four. I believe we previously had a 5-point lead with a couple games in hand. That lead is now 3. Oh my gosh. We played Man U on Thursday.
We did.
I forgot about that. 1-1 draw. At the Theater of Dreams, we now have not won at Old Trafford in more than a decade. So again, rough week. We dominated possession in both matches. Lack of finishing was kind of the issue this week. But I'm curious because now this is going on for 4 or 5 matches. I mean, we were talking in the build-up, basically since being knocked out of the Champions League by Real Madrid, this has been a different team. Where are you pointing fingers? Where can this be changed?
I think it's different depending on the match. So the United match, we dominated possession, and it was a much more like free form, kind of a free flowing game. And this one really pissed me off because it was on my birthday and I got to watch it, and I haven't been able to watch a midweek game in a while. And I was like, sweet, I get to sit down, watch the game, and really get to kind of analyze it and not work, and take some time to see the boys play. And they didn't play great. It's finishing was suspect. Kai Havertz, I don't mean to blame Kai, but Kai has not had his best couple of matches. Finishing, he squandered a good amount of opportunities, especially in the United match. I know he did in the Everton match as well, but if you have 2 chances and you kind of squander them both, that's whatever to me. That's kind of, that in the course of a match, that's not the biggest deal to me. But he had like 4 or 5 pretty good opportunities against United, and to see those kind of get washed up is tough. The United match was who scored in the United match? I don't even remember.
Big game, Marcus Alonso.
Marcus Alonso with the volley, that's right, and then quickly followed up by Ronaldo, right?
Right.
Yeah, over the top. It was a good goal by Ronaldo. I mean, it wasn't. I don't think it was as much of a defensive lapse for that one as much as it was just a pretty good goal, pretty decently timed attack, and the fact that it happened pretty closely after the Alonso one. That one felt more like a 1-1 draw. I'm looking at that a little bit with revisionist history because at the time I wasn't very excited about a 1-1 draw. I think we had like 70% of the possession in that game. So it's tough to watch. It's tough to see your team dominate. But then when you see them dominate again against Everton and have 75% of the possession, but only create like 2 chances and none of them on goal in the first half, it's like, something's got to change. And I don't know if that means our guys need to make more runs or our midfield needs to find our runs more often or what that is. But man, something's got to change. And then we had a pretty severe error by Dave, our captain, one of our most resilient, reliant guys. Just let the ball kind of run in front of him, looked up and had it taken off of him, and Richarlison, kind of took the opportunity. So brutal week, man. We only let up 2 goals, which I guess is a bit of a less of a concession. We've been more holy on defense, and so to only let up 2 goals in the 2 games is better, but still not the greatest because our attack still isn't where it needs to be. We're not creating enough, and we're definitely not finishing anywhere near where a top flight team should be.
Yeah, and the my initial impression this week, and it has been for a couple weeks now, is that we're not going to score unless something is gifted to us, and it's kind of how it's been. We're I hate to keep going back to this conversation, but we talked about having defenders scoring at the rate that they were earlier in the year, and is it sustainable? And at the time, we were pretty on board with yes, it was. Man, 2020 vision is, revisionist vision is bad. There's no way that that's sustainable. I mean, we've had to we've basically had to live with Marcus Alonso scoring goals. We've had to live with Reece James scoring goals throughout this whole season. And keep in mind, Reece James was out for X amount of months. The problem's in the attack. It has to be that the attack maybe a little bit on the midfield. You got Jorginho not pressing the ball as much as he should, because we saw it today with when as soon as Kovacic came on, him and Ruben Loftus-Cheek just started going at Everton. But Tuchel is, I'm not sure with Tuchel. His post game presser, he said the issue is we're not keeping clean sheets. The rate at which this team kept clean sheets last year and into the first half of this year was absurd. It was, Mourinho's first stint where they allowed 14 goals all season, something like that. It was just an absurd amount of clean sheets. And with guys now leaving, set to leave, Christensen, Rudiger, with guys getting close to their 40s and Thiago Silva, and with young guys in Trev and Malang Sarr, you can't expect to keep that many clean sheets. And honestly, what's the best defense is a good attack. We hold 70% of the possession. Why are we not scoring 2 to 3 goals per game? So I don't buy the defense argument. Yes, there's been some silly errors, but again, like you said, we've surrendered 2 goals this week. That's not bad. We should have scored honestly 5 or 6. So that front three's got to get it together.
Should have scored 5 or 6 in the first half of the United match.
Right.
And what's really telling to me, sorry to cut you off. What's really telling to me is the moments where I'm like most excited, the moments where I'm most hopeful that we're scoring. Marcus Alonso on a volley, Reece James when he's got the ball at his feet, and Tony Rudiger when he's got like a half a yard of open space. Those are like the most hopeful moments as a fan that I'm like, most expecting us to score, and that's bad. That's not a good thing as a fan, because when Kai gets the ball and he's one-on-one with the keeper, that's where we should be the most excited or most hopeful, and we don't have that hope right now. We don't have that hope when the ball falls to Timo and he's got one defender and a keeper, and we're not hopeful that he's going to put the ball in a position to score or put the ball on target to score or make someone miss or whatever. The positive today was Ruben Loftus-Cheek, because he made a couple people miss. And you can see what happens to a defense when you make that first defender miss and you get them on your hip and you've got like that half a yard of step. And then someone else has to commit to you, and now things open up, right? And so that was where we were most positive, and that was where things started to open up. And gosh, it just really like, I hate to say this, I really hate to say this, but I'm gonna say it. It made me really miss Aiden Hazard, because Aiden Hazard made people miss, and he took people completely out of the play, right? And he took people on head on, and he said, "I'm better than you, and I'm gonna go by you." And we don't have anybody that can say like, "I'm gonna go by you." We don't have that like person who can take someone on one and say, "I'm gonna go by you," or "I'm gonna make you miss. I'm gonna take you out of the play." And once you do that, like, defenses crumble. They just break down in a hurry because someone's got to cover, and then it's just ping 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 and goals start to open up. And I hate to say it because everyone talks about Hazard coming back, and I don't want to fuel that fire, and I don't think he can do that today. However, I miss it, man. I miss having that person that can do that, and I saw glimpses of it today with Loftus Cheek, and it was cool to see again because we haven't seen that in a bit, and it's a necessary thing to breaking down defenses. So I man, if we could have a couple of people like that in the squad, be a lot different.
Yeah, and Hazard, in addition to being fearless and running at people, he knew how many touches was an appropriate amount of touches. He knew when to fire off a shot or when to get rid of the ball. This is what I'm seeing in terms of the offense regressing here, the attack regressing. You look at the Southampton match, you look at the second Real Madrid match, and it was not necessarily first time shots, but it was early shots, not allowing the defense to fully get back and get in front of you. You looked at the crosses into the box, and they were looking up, making eye contact, pinpointing where that ball's going to go. And then you look at the 5 matches since, if you include Crystal Palace, that's all gone away. Timo Werner is back to taking 8,000 touches when he needs to take 2. Kai Havertz is missing plain and simple headers. Mason Mount just kind of whipping in balls just to whip in balls. Same with Reece James. And that was not fun to see Reece James struggle like that today. The only person who has that IQ consistently is Hakim Ziyech, but he can't find his way on the pitch. Just today alone, he whipped in probably 2-3 just real juicy ones, and there's no one at the end of it. it's we're
Why do you think why do you think Hakim's not out there and that consistent? Is it formation based? That's the only like argument I can think of why he's not out there, because we're starting with more of the two strikers up front with like Mace kind of playing that floating right behind him formation. And I don't know if Hakim plays as well there.
Yeah,
that's the only thing I can think of.
he looked good earlier in the year when we were, with big injury crisis, when he was playing that right wing back kind of hybrid role. But I think Tuchel views him, and I think a lot of Chelsea fans view him as being very one-dimensional. He's got a left foot and can't really do much else. I don't know if I agree with that. He's not great at some things. He's not the fastest guy in the world. He's not the greatest defender in the world. But he finds his way into space. He's not afraid. We've seen it so many times this year. He's not afraid to go at people, go around people, go through people. And he's got that IQ. He knows exactly what he's doing. So I think Tuchel likes those multi-dimensional players. He's like Craig Counsell managing the Brewers. He loves utility players. Loves them. Would make a whole team of utility players. And Hakim Ziyech doesn't fit that mold because he is a right winger, and that's all he can do.
Yeah, and it's a decent role to play, like as a super sub kind of a thing, as a different look and a different kind of an attack. And I see him and Pulisic coming on at the same time to try to just give like different flavor to things and to switch things up a bit. It's a shame though, because we saw a really solid run of form in that like January, February time frame where Ziyech was getting consistent minutes and really being our most dangerous player from an attacking sense, from a goal threatening sense, but then also the balls that he would play in, they're always in dangerous spots. And I'm not soccer IQ high enough to say like whether or not people should be getting on the end of those balls or not, like if they're on the same wavelength of him. But the consistency of balls that he plays into dangerous positions, I can say is good, right? Like you can tell that he's not squandering opportunities. He's not playing balls out of bounds. He's putting them into spots where people can get on the end of them and do something dangerous with. So I don't know what the miscommunication is for some of those things, but it sucks because we saw it kind of come in and then be consistent, and then all of a sudden now he's not part of the 11 anymore, and I don't think he did anything to not earn that spot anymore. So that hurts as a fan when you don't know the behind the scenes, but I'm sure that's something, and I'm sure Tuchel's not making his decisions in a vacuum, so he sees something, or he sees something better, or whatever that might be. But yeah, he's one of our better attacking players, and when you and I sit here, Collins, and say attacking isn't great, and we know we've got good attacking on the bench, it's hard to sit here as a fan and say that wouldn't be better.
Yeah, and we do have good attacking on the bench. That's always been the strong point, is that we have players who have contributed on that bench, including Big Rom, who is still on my shit list, but I think he could have contributed today. But let's real quick go off script here, because we've got new owners coming in. We've got, presumably they should be backing Tuchel. If they're not, then there's going to be a whole nother issue. So, let's say they talk with Tuchel, and Tuchel gives his list of players he wants, players he doesn't need. Let's go through that attack. Who's in, who's out. So you got today's front three. You got Havertz, Timo, Mason Mount. Who's in, who's out?
I think Kai sticks around long term. I think he's special and he's young, and I think you can work around him. I think Mount's in. I think you move away from Timo. I think you can move away from Aram. And then from there, it becomes pretty. I just don't know where it goes from there. Like, could I see a Christian Pulisic playing a role? Sure, but I also don't know if he wants to serve the role that is in front of him with that, like as a super sub or man off the bench or man in a rotational squad role. If I'm thinking of it from his point of view, could he be the guy somewhere else? Yeah. And might he want to be the guy somewhere else? Probably, maybe. So, he might move along. I think Ziyech might move along. Others might as well. I mean, Callum Hudson-Odoi is a tough one just because he's been injury-ridden for a bit, and he's shown some promise when he's out there. He's also shown some of his youth and inexperience when he's out there as well. So I don't know if I can make a decision on him. You kind of have to look at him as a project. If he's going to be out there, he's not going to be like that person you go to game in, game out today. So I think you build around Kai. If you're going to pick one of those guys up front, I think you build around Kai. But I also like Mason a lot. I think he's been really positive. He's been really consistent this year. He's played in a lot of matches, and most of them have been pretty good. So I know he's had a couple of off matches, but he loves the club. He's Chelsea through and through. He's an academy boy. He wants to be out there. And I think I changed my answer. If you're going to build around one player, it's Mason. Secondary to that, or 1B behind that, would be Kai.
I agree with those two staying. It sounds like everybody else is kind of questionable for you at this point, with a couple of exceptions of they're just out. I agree. Timo Werner, I think his good form we saw a couple weeks ago, unfortunately, was just a blip. I think that was just a nice little run for him. He needs to get out to build confidence. Pulisic, he's a player who thrives on playing every single week in and week out. He's never going to get that at Chelsea. As much as his dad wants to go on Twitter and talk about how much he loves his teammates and loves the club and loves London, it's a World Cup year. And Berhalter has already shown that he wants guys who play regardless of where they play. Pulisic's probably best leaving. Ziyech, I don't think Ziyech can do much better than Chelsea. I think if he leaves, it's going to be back to a situation similar to Ajax. So I think he stays. Ram, as long as this is just written off as forgiven money, Ram goes. I don't think you can justify his wages on this team if you're a new owner. So, yeah, Kai, Mace, Cho, I guess. Then
One quick thing. Everyone talks about like Ram's $95 million signing fee. He is also like the highest paid player on our team.
Yeah,
on top of that,
he's making what, like £350 a week, something like that.
Exactly. And so, if we keep him, he is still the highest paid player on our team, and I think those wages could go, be better suited to pay someone else. So I like you said, it's money out the door. It's a sunk cost, and we can move on from that and pay those wages to someone else who deserves it,
or multiple people who deserve it. Since we're going to be rebuilding this whole attack, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So with with a draw and a loss, God, feels like two losses.
It does feel like two losses,
right? The race for Champions League seemingly got a lot tighter this week. Arsenal beats West Ham, I believe 2-1 today. Spurs, they're bound to be Spursy at some point, but they haven't been
they won
lately. So, as we sit right now, 4 matches to go. Everyone is finally level on matches. Chelsea in third, sitting on 66. Arsenal fourth, sitting on 63. Tottenham in fifth, sitting on 61. And then Man United is sixth, but they're out of it.
Yeah.
It's starting to heat up. We need... Let's see, we got 4 matches left. I believe we still need 9 points to
6 points.
6 points to seal. Thank you. Are we going to be able to do it? I mean, we got Wolves is supposed to be the easy one coming up, but Charity FC, Wolves has lost 3 in a row. So you know what's coming there.
What's hard is when you look back 2 matches and you say we need 7 out of the 5 matches that are coming up, and you're like, okay, well, that's doable. And then you get a point at Manchester United, and then you take nothing at Everton, and so now it's 6 out of the next 4. You're right. It tightens up. It's just it makes you think that it could not be in the cards. God, I hope so. It will be an awful couple of weeks of podcasting if this isn't in the cards for us, man. I mean, going from talking about defending our Champions League to the tournaments that we've been in, and obviously we're still competing on the FA Cup front. We've got an FA Cup final, but we didn't win the Carabao Cup. We won the Club World Cup, which was great and fun, but then you start, if we don't take top 4, man, you start to think of this season as a failure. And I fully back Tuchel today, but if he doesn't take top 4, his ass is on the chopping block. Absolutely on the chopping block if we don't take top 4. And I don't like to say that because I like Tuchel in there, man, and I want him in there. I really want to see like his influence on the club, and I want to have him have a couple of like signing windows where he can really like implement his philosophy. But I don't know if he's going to get that. If he doesn't take top 4, I don't think he gets it. And that's where the quick trigger of Chelsea comes in, and you really start to worry.
If this was still the Abramovich era, I would say absolutely, absolutely. He's gone if they don't make top four. But with new ownership coming in and with that being finalized right around the end of the season, I believe Boehly is anticipating May 31st for finalizing that. Our last match is May 22nd. So I think you're gonna, just like with Marina, you're gonna see kind of a 1 year transition period, regardless of how we finish this year, just to let Boehly and Clear Lake and all them get their footing, see what the club's all about. But it's not going to look good on Tuchel if we don't finish top four. So we've got 4 matches left: 2 at home, 2 away. We need 6 points. Where do you see the 6 points coming? We've got Wolves at home, Leeds away, Leicester at home, Watford at home. Oh, sorry, we have 3 at home. And we've been piss poor at home.
We haven't been great at home, but we've got to take the points. Leeds and Wolves have to be in the cards for us. Welcome, Matt, to the pod. Happy to have you, buddy.
Hi, boys. Apologies for being late. Had something run a little bit later than I had expected. So apologies, but we're here.
Not a problem. We're just talking about 6 points out of the remaining 4 that we've got on the cards for us, given the rough week that we had. So where do you see those points coming in? I mean, you got to take the points at Wolves, and I feel like you have to take them at Leeds as well. You got to take 6 out of those games, because Leicester's going to be kind of a throw up, and you don't want to leave it to the last week as well. So it's going to be a little dicey, but I think we can handle our business. I fully expect it to. But it's going to be what's going to be interesting is we play FA Cup final on the 14th, and then we play on the 19th and the 22nd to finish it out. So it's going to be a quick end to the season. So a couple big matches in there, and we're gonna put out our squad against Liverpool in the FA Cup final. So be interesting to see how the lineup gets rotated in some of that.
Yeah, Wolves have won 1 of their last 5, so they won 1, lost 4. Leicester have won 1 out of their last 5 with 2 losses, 2 draws.
And they just got shit on by Tottenham.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Leeds is the only one who's been somewhat successful there, but they might be, trying to mess with Everton in terms of relegation battle. Watford, luckily, last match of the year, they should already be relegated. That should be done. But I don't want to leave top 4 to the last day. I think we're going to see 2 more draws. I think our next 2 are going to be draws, unfortunately, and then a win against Leeds. Fuck Wisconsin native Jesse Marsh.
Wait, so draw against Wolves, and then we play Leeds after that.
Oh, I thought we had left. Oh, sorry, I was getting Leeds and Leicester. Got my L's mixed up. Draw.
We play Wolves, then Leeds, then the FA Cup final, then Leicester, then Watford.
Draw, win, draw, win. Matt, what about you? Let's get your first take of the night.
So I can see a win against Wolves. I can see a loss against Leicester or against Leeds. You have a team, as we saw today. You have a team that is aching to still be in the Premier League. I'll go back to the well, like I've been doing most of this campaign. When we go up against teams that we should beat on paper, we do not. It's always the teams that are in the lower half that scare me. They have nothing to lose. They're trying to take down a giant in the Premier League. Then you add on the fact that they're in a relegation battle. And they are, right now, I think they're 17th, so they're just above. So they're going to be scrapping and clawing and giving everything that they have in these matches because they need points any way they can get them. Leeds is a scary team. You don't know what you're getting out of them, but you know it's going to be 90 minutes, full-fledged, in-your-face, nonstop attack. So with the way that we've handled that in recent matches, that worries me a lot. So I would say a win against Wolves. I would say a loss against Leeds. I can see a win against Leicester. There's been a rivalry that's kind of developed ever since, I think it was the FA Cup last year when we lost to them. There's been a little rivalry brewing there. And a lot of people know what happened, especially with Daniel Marty at the end, throwing down the exchange banner before the match, after, the ones at the captain's exchange, throwing that down and doing whatever in the locker room after they had won. A lot of people took that personally. So I think that there is a rivalry there, and I think that we're going to come out looking to win and seal things up early. So I can see a win against Leicester. Watford for me is going to be a toss-up. Where are they going to be? We should beat them, but if they do find themselves where they need a win, and it's going to be the last match of the season, they need 3 points or they need a result, they're going to be going full out. And at that point, maybe we've clinched, so maybe we throw the kids out there and see what happens. So I don't know. I see it as a win against Wolves, a loss against Leeds, a win against Leicester, and roll the dice against Watford.
Here's why I'm not too worried about Watford. They are 12 points back of Leeds right now. 12 points back of safety with 4 to go. So they're going to be eliminated this weekend if Burnley or Leeds take a point, because we know Watford's not going to take any points this weekend. So that's the one where I can see, all right, we're going to go out and score 7 goals in a game that doesn't matter for anyone. And everybody's going to be like, oh, our offense is great. Next year is going to be wonderful. And then we're going to go through all this same shit next year.
Just like Southampton.
Right. Can we play Norwich and Southampton every week is my question.
Have Norwich gotten promoted to next season yet? Is that happened yet?
Them and
The
Fulham.
Yo-Yo Club.
That's a new rule. If you get relegated, you are automatically in the Premier League the season after. You get a 1-year hiatus, and then you're back automatically.
Yeah, that's Norwich and Fulham, alternating yo-yos. They will never play each other in the Premier League. All right. Well, let's get to our last topic of the night, and that is new ownership. Repping my Dodgers cap tonight. Got Team Boehly. Been calling that one since the start, so I'm feeling good about that one. Boehly and company has entered the exclusive negotiating period with Roman Abramovich. It's believed that that's going to be about a week, so it should last through Friday. And then assuming that is done, the Premier League will run its vetting process, which apparently is just not used if you look at Newcastle's takeover. And then Boehly's anticipating to take over the club by the end of May, so by the end of the season. Light at the end of the tunnel, boys. Light at the end of the tunnel.
Question. Do we know that the flag stays down podcast bid hasn't been accepted yet? Because apparently you can make random bids whenever, and bidding deadlines don't matter. So do we know for sure that our bid to own the club is not considered?
I haven't heard back from Rain Group or Boris Johnson yet, so I assume we're still in the running. We'll see how this exclusive negotiating period goes.
Because, man, when a late bid comes in on a Thursday and just stirs everything up from a British billionaire who makes a pretty lofty bid, it is kind of funny. B, it seemed like we got some answers out of things, like things actually started to come out from a pretty stagnant period, which was a little bit hilarious that it took a random bid to get things to get finalized through the system. But either way, it's pretty well known that the Flag Down pod has been pretty heavily Team Boehly, and it's good to see that is looking like the answer, and that it's looking like it's going to be the thing. It hasn't been confirmed; it's not official yet, but from whatever we can see, it's pretty well standing that it's going to be Boehly and Cruz. So happy about that.
So, boys, I have some news to share with you. I recently found out that I got a raise, and it's somewhere in the $15 billion range. So, I told Roman, I'm like, I'll give you 4.2, but anything above that, that's just being greedy. So we do still have a fighting chance. Just want to make you guys aware of that. So the dream is still alive.
Thanks, Matt.
Hoping to hear back soon. Boehly's the best option. We've been saying that. Somebody who knows how to run a franchise, multiple franchises, and very successfully. So I'm happy to hear it. I'm excited for what's going to happen once everything is resolved, what's going to happen with player contracts, and all that stuff. So, maybe we make that last ditch effort to keep Rudy, provided all this is done and squared away before his contract is fully up. But we just kind of see how things work out from there. It's going to be a very interesting summer for us, but obviously we didn't want Roman gone, but I think that we're still going to end up with the best case scenario kind of as we move forward. So happy to hear that news.
And just a couple interesting notes that I've seen floating around here today. Number one, Simon Phillips with The Athletic. I believe he's one of the hosts of Straight Outta Cobham, which is to plug another podcast on our podcast, right? He released through The Athletic that a lot of the players are unsettled with what their situation is now that Rudiger is confirmed to be leaving. And I think we're starting to honestly see some of that on the pitch. So hopefully, we can get that cleared up, because there are 14 players next year if you include the PL2 squad, loanees, and the first team whose contracts are up next year. So it's going to be a busy year. I can certainly see why people are worried about it. So hopefully, that's first line of business, so we don't have a repeat of this year. The second thing I've seen a lot of worries about is the involvement of Clear Lake Financial, who is going to be the majority share owner in this consortium. The owner of Clear Lake is a personal friend of Boehly's, and it is coming on. And it's been confirmed now that he's going to allow Boehly to handle the operations, to kind of be the Derek Jeter of the whole Marlins organization kind of deal. So Miami Marlins got taken over by a big hedge fund, all that. Derek Jeter invested $5 million or something in it, and so they made him the CEO, and he's the guy who runs everything and all that, whereas the money is just coming in from silent owners. So to better explain my analogy, that's what Clear Lake's doing. They have a personal relationship with Boehly and a lot of members of the consortium. So there is worry that in 10 years, because there's a 10-year clause in this purchase that you can't sell for 10 years, there's a worry that Clear Lake is going to be looking for their money back at that point. And if not, to sell their shares, and as majority owner, then we're all of a sudden back in this situation. I hope friendship matters. I hope Boehly and his friend owner of Clear Lake don't make that an issue. But like Boehly has said in all of his interviews, winning builds profit. So invest the money now, so that in 10 years we don't have to deal with this shit.
Dude, winning cures everything, right? If this is the case and they invest in the club and the club wins more than they lose, then Clear Lake is selling at a profit, and they can do so. They're within their rights to do so as business people, sure, whatever. But then they're selling at a profit, and then Chelsea's in a financially good spot, and things are good, right? That's what we all want. Um, Obviously, that's like the super glass half full view of the world, and if things aren't that, then we start to worry, because if it's just mediocre, if it's just so, then a sale and some of those additional like eyeballs on the club and change of ownership, then it starts to be worrisome a little bit. I hope we have owners that are in it for the long run, and in it because they want to be in it. And that was kind of what I don't remember what the guy's name was that made that last ditch effort bid, but it seemed like he was kind of Roman 2.0 a little bit, where he was a little bit like, hey, I don't really care. Money's not an object. I don't really give a shit about finances. We make money elsewhere, and we want to make this club proud English club, and have it be what it is. So it sounded good from an outsider's perspective, but if we end up being in Boehly's consortium, I think we just got to kind of ride those waves a little bit differently, and kind of take it for what it is. And it might be a little bit different than Roman. It probably will be different than Roman, but Collins, to your point, if the club does well, and if you invest in the club and the club does well, then everybody wins. Like, it's a profitable enterprise for everybody that's involved. And if people want to sell out, then we get other people that want to be in it.
Also, just to kind of further elaborate on the flag down pod bid, I did talk to the head of the Premier League, and I've already set up the wire transfer for $250 million, just to kind of slide under the table to ensure that the vetting process goes as quickly and as painlessly as the Newcastle one did. So we're all set there too, boys. Just figured I'd throw that one out there.
You know what? You just derailed what I was going to say. I can't remember what I was going to say.
Coming in hot.
Yep. Hey, thanks for joining us tonight, Matt.
Yeah, my pleasure.
All right. I do remember now. We kind of touched, Matt, you and I touched on this on, I think it was Pod After Dark last week. New technical director, possibly, instead of Marina. That's probably going to be one of the first lines of order for regardless of who the new ownership is. Marina is very close with Roman Abramovich, and I know a lot of people have said, "Oh, Marina should stay on. We want Marina on." She might be too close. It takes two to tango there. There's no guarantee that she wants to be around in this new regime. A lot of fans certainly don't want her around from what I've seen, and I'm starting to be one of them. So what we're looking at is Paul Mitchell from Monaco as the leading candidate here. Is making that change something that's going to be worthwhile? And because Matt, I heard your opinion last week. Parker, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I can go either way on this. There's two schools of thought. One, you try to keep as many pieces consistent as you can, so that it's as easy as of a transition that you can make from owner to owner, and then you sort of evaluate after that. But I also do believe that if you're close to people and you trust people, that you should make the change up front and kind of have that clean slate approach to the club. If there are people that are attached to the prior ownership that you don't agree with, or that you think you want to go a different way from, right away is the right time to do it. You want to have that clean slate. You want to have, for better or worse, really, like that chance to prove yourself and bring in the people that you want to bring in, and and say, like, this is our era. This is what we want to stand behind. And this is this is the team that we bring to the table. And then we're going to sign the people that we want to sign. And then let's be judged on that. And we don't want to have sort of that like legacy problem of what might be something that you inherit from an owner standpoint. You don't want like to inherit problems as many as you can, right? You want to have as few of those legacy problems as you can, and you want to have as clean of a start as you can. So I think Marina's done a pretty good job. Like, all things considered, I think she's done a pretty good job. But I also believe in clean starts, and I believe in, if we're going to make this change, we're going to make this change kind of full bore, and we're going to buy into the new owners, and we're going to have a fresh start from it. And I did not listen to Pod After Dark, so I don't know if this is buying into or completely different from your guys' opinions, but that's how I feel about ownership. From if I was buying a club, which I'm not in a position to do, unlike you, Matt, I don't have that bank account to do.
You guys are going to be on my board of directors, so don't worry about that.
Fuck yeah. So when I'm on the board of directors, I want a clean start, and I want us to be judged as that, right? Like, I want this to be the Maciejewski era of Chelsea, and I don't want to inherit anyone else's problems. I want to say, like, we're going to be judged on the decisions that we make as a team, and this is us. And you know what? For better or worse, this is what we're going to rock with, and we're going to make decisions, and we're not afraid to make decisions, and here we go.
So I'm going to kind of split the difference on this. I think a relatively good idea, and granted, I'm not a business person. That's why I'm bringing both of you guys along on my board of directors. I think what would be in the best interest of the club in the current state for a transition state would be, you keep Marina on for like a year. You keep her on as a consultant, but the caveat to that is she doesn't get final say like she currently does with Petr Cech, right? I think that she is on as a consultant, but let's say Paul Mitchell does come over, he still has authority to move on those, but he can also consult with Petr and Marina, as things, Collins, you talked about the 14 contracts that we have coming up. Like, from a player's standpoint, and again, this is just me never playing a pro sport, you want something familiar as possible when you're looking at negotiations. Like, what to expect, right? So I think that's why you keep Marina on just for that transition period. Sign whoever you need to long-term extensions, 3, 4, 5 years. And then once it's time for new contracts, then that's strictly with Paul Mitchell for him to decide what he wants to do. But I think with all the uncertainty, you have to keep something somewhat familiar to the players that you currently have. So I could see like a transition phase with Marina sticking on for a year, until the new technical director kind of gets their feet wet with everything, and they feel comfortable to be able to take over control of something like this.
Parker, I'm a little offended that you didn't listen to the third most listened to Chelsea podcast in America last week. Quick shout out to us. You can find us anywhere you get your podcasts. But just a quick rundown on Paul Mitchell. We've mentioned his name a lot. Matt and I talked about him a little bit this week on Pod After Dark. But he was here's his LinkedIn profile, his resume. He started as head of recruitment at MK Dons in 2008. In 2012, he was the director of recruitment and scouting at Southampton when they went through their kind of renaissance. Head of recruitment and analysis at Spurs in 2014 to 2018 when they went through their kind of renaissance. Head of recruitment and development at RB Leipzig from 2018 to 2020. technical director at Red Bull International from 2019 to 2020, and he's the current sporting director and has been for the last 2 years at Monaco. That's a pretty impressive track record of groups that will recognize and develop talent. So I've changed in the last week. I've changed my opinion that I was originally with you, Matt. Marina on board for a year, nice little transition. No, she's a CFO. You don't need her at this point. Bring somebody in who has both knowledge of the game and that scouting knowledge, as well as somebody who has the business side, instead of dividing it up between two jobs like we are right now. It's all about taking advantage of those market inefficiencies.
So I do not listen to the podcast, Collins. I didn't listen to Pod After Dark. So those numbers are legitimate because they're not inflated by me listening to it. They're actual listeners. So you can at least rest assured that they're organic listeners. But in theory land, in like what happens in an ideal world, Matt, I agree with you. Like Marina for a year for like that 1 year transition, but I don't know like how you communicate that to her and have her be motivated to like get the best out of Chelsea for a year, because if you know your neck is on the chopping block, or if you know that it's only for like a year kind of a period, then you're not really motivated to do the best job you can as the director for those negotiations. Like if you know you're just like that pivot person that is just kind of filling the gap, or that transitional person, I know if I knew someone was taking over my job as like I'm just training someone in on my job, like I don't know if I would do the best job in the world training them in and teaching them all of what I know and doing, propping them up to look great. Like I don't know if I would do that either. So I agree that it would be wonderful for Chelsea, but I don't know that we could get Marina for a year at her best to bring that in. And so that's kind of where I come from in the fresh start period, where you let her go, you give her a great severance, you send her on, and you pat her on the back, because I think she did a great job. I really do, and I don't think it's like her fault. I really don't think it's her fault for leaving. But I think it's a management change, and it's a directional change. And I think you say, hey, you did a great job. We appreciate your efforts, and we're going a different way. And we've got new people, and appreciate what you did.
And keep in mind, she's coming off of being named UEFA's Executive of the Year this year. So if Boehly or whoever, Boehly at this point, we'll just say Boehly, comes in and says, hey, we'll give you a year as a transition, but we'll pay you nicely, to get out at the end of it. If I'm her, I might be saying fuck off. Like I can go wherever I want at this point. Although again, she is very close with Roman Abramovich. I would assume that Abramovich is taking care of her with his funds that aren't frozen.
Roman might be buying another club, right?
Right. And I've read in Turkey and Spain and Brazil, all these places that don't currently sanction Russians. So we'll see.
Still have a job.
Oh yeah. All right. Well, with that, boys, we are pushing up against the hour mark. Matt, since you just got here, we'll start with you. You got any closing thoughts?
Rough week. That's about the only thing I can use to sum it up. We were talking during the game, and we're kind of running out of words to figure out what's going on. But hey, we still got a little bit of season left, another opportunity for some hardware. So keep pushing on in this final month of the season, and hope everything kind of sets itself up for a successful year next year.
Parker, what about you? Closing thoughts?
Yeah. We've got our chances to close things out on a high note. So hope the boys take it. And echo what Matt said, where where we've got our shots to close out on a high note, and hope we do, because podcasting is a hell of a lot more fun when we've got positive things to talk about. I don't like sitting here talking negative about Chelsea, because it's usually the things that we squander, and not being the worst of two clubs, I guess. It's usually us not performing, which is the harder thing to talk about. So it's more fun when we talk about us winning, and winning in style. So hopefully we can get there.
And my closing thought for the night is, Matt, start putting some respect on Marcus Alonso's name.
Yes.
Big game Marcos coming through again. But before we cheers to all that, let me pay some bills here. If you've enjoyed what you watched today on Twitch, feel free to give us a follow on there. We will be broadcasting like we did tonight, every Sunday night at 8:30 Central Standard Time. If you're busy on Sundays, or if you like to listen to the podcast on your commute or at work or whatever during the week, you can catch us wherever you get your podcasts. All I do ask is that if you listen to us on Spotify or Apple, that you please subscribe, rate, and review, and then please unsubscribe, resubscribe, re-rate, and re-review. It takes all of 10 seconds, but it helps us more than you know. You can also follow us on social media. Podcast itself can be followed on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook by searching for at FlagDownPod. You can follow me, Andy, at Comiskey North. You can follow Parker at DJ Parkour, and you can follow Matt at Matus Lee. If you have any questions or comments that you want us to address on air, we're always happy to read those, or anything that you've got for us. Just shoot us a DM on social media, or, like I said earlier, come join us live on Twitch. The interaction the last couple weeks has been great, and so we'd love to sit down and have a drink with you. So, boys, that's all I've got. So we'll close it out toasting to a rough week, positive ending, and I was right.
You're always right, Collins.
I want the stats to back that.
Cheers, boys.
Cheers.
I'm all potted out.